back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we explore real, raw, and remarkable stories of people discovering their purpose, embracing their passions, and leading with courage. Today's guest is Alaina Love, author and CEO of Purpose Linked Consulting. She is nationally recognized as a leadership coach and purpose expert and has been helping people lead better lives for more than 20 years. Her recently launched book, Permission to Be You, Discover Your Purpose and Passions to Bring Your Best Self to Everything and Everyone, reveals the power of passion-centered living to bring clarity and fulfillment in our work, relationships, and our biggest transitions. Alaina is formerly a research scientist and executive director of Global Human Services, and she served as leadership columnist for Bloomberg Business Week, the Washington Post, Harvard Business Review, and Smart Brief. In this conversation, we dive into what it means to live authentically, how to embrace your passions without guilt, and why giving yourself permission to fail and to choose yourself is essential for growth. We'll explore how to recognize and embrace your passions in both work and life, the concept of self expansion and bringing your authentic self to relationships, and giving yourself permission to fail as a key part of personal growth. We also looked at my passion archetypes and hers, which is great fun. So let's jump in. Here you go. Oh, Alaina, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. We are going to have such a conversation today. I'm so excited for this.
Thank you. So am I. I'm delighted to be with you, Yo.
Thanks. So let's start. Would you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Sure. I'm Alaina Love. I have been doing leadership and team development work for the last, 2 decades plus. That's kind of scary when I think about it, Yo. Oh my goodness. It's been a long time. And I've been helping executives be better at who they are and better at leading, and their teams embrace their purpose and their passions and apply it to being successful in business. I am a recovering HR executive, believe it or not. I'm
Yes.
an HR exec with a large multinational pharma company. And when I first started in my career with them, I was a research scientist doing basic research on compounds that modulate immune responses in diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. So I really started as a scientist. And interestingly, that science nerd keeps coming back over and over again and has impacted the work I'm doing today.
That's terrific. We have to talk a little bit about your book. I see it behind you. I have it right here on my desk, and we're going to talk about it. But yeah, why don't you tell folks a little bit about the book?
Well, the book is called Permission to Be You, and the subtitle is Discover Your Purpose and Passions and Bring Your Best Self to Everything and Everyone. And it is a book that was really the birthed by my clients, believe it or not. I've been doing purpose and passion work, as I said, for so many years. But what I learned while doing it was that the things that I was doing for leaders and their teams inside organizations where they were learning more and more about themselves and how to be more effective as human beings and exciting others and getting others geared up to deliver on the organization's goals. I also learned that they were at the same time applying those same insights about themselves in their personal lives. And it was having an outsized impact on how they interacted in their personal relationships. So many of them would pull me into their offices behind closed doors and say, "Can you do this for my wife?" Or "Can you do this for my son?" Or "My brother-in-law could really use your help. He's at this transition point in his life. And I think understanding his passions and getting a sight line to his purpose would really be helpful for him." So
Mm.
it let me know that there was enough of a need for this work beyond what I was delivering that I really needed to take a different approach to it. And I needed to make this available to everyone. And so this book is my answer to that.
Mm.
At least it's the first pebble I'm tossing into the pond, and I'm hoping to create a big ripple.
Yeah, it really brings home so many important distinctions. And I think let's start with when you talk about purpose and passion, like what you mean by them and how you see them as linked.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. When I first started this work, I feel like I had a demand creation problem. I felt like I had a solution and it was looking for somebody to need it. And
Uh-huh.
what I ended up discovering, because I asked a lot of people about passion and I asked a lot of people about did they understand their purpose in life, was that there were all kinds of answers out there. Some people looked at me like they were deer in the headlights. I don't know what you're talking about, but I guess I have one. I guess I have a purpose. I guess I have passions. Other people were very definitive. They understood what they were here to do and accomplish in life, and they understood the underlying passions that helped them do it. And some people said things to me like, I don't know, I'm on my way to somewhere. I hope I'll recognize it when I get there. So it became clear to me that we needed a language to better understand purpose and passion. And when I started out the journey, I started out thinking about how could I define purpose? And then I realized this is like a big, hairy, esoteric thing, and it's different for different people. But what I began to notice as I interviewed top level people, and that's where I started, I interviewed top level people to understand what it meant to them. I kept seeing over and over again that they were demonstrating certain passion behaviors.
Mhm.
Over and over, I would see these passion behaviors show up. And over time, I started to realize they were falling into certain categories. And I had been seeing those passion behaviors my entire career. I just didn't recognize what I was looking at until there was sort of a light bulb moment when I did.
Mhm.
And that's when I started to realize that when we talk about this notion of purpose and we talk about this notion of passion, we almost think it's something that you can go into Walmart and find in the health and beauty aisle. But it's not. It's not. It's something that's already inside you.
Mhm.
And understanding that the two are so deeply connected is really the key. Because if you understand that your passions are birthed from the inner purpose that drives you, then even if you don't understand what that purpose is, like you can't sit down and write this very eloquent purpose statement for your life, you can always understand the situations that are going to allow you to apply your passions,
Mhm.
where they'll have a chance to play. And when
Mhm.
you do, it's a thrilling thing because you realize my entire life I have opportunities to demonstrate these passions over and over and over again. And every time I do it, I'm demonstrating my purpose, even if I don't have the words to describe what it is. And we're never finished. It's not like we sit on the porch and say, okay, we're retired now. The kids have grown and gotten married. I don't have any more pets to take care of. I'm just going to enjoy myself. You're never finished.
Yeah,
Always have something to pursue and achieve. And that
that's so important. That
yeah,
is just so important to get. I think a couple things there. You're saying you don't need to go outward. It's inward already. You can look at your passions, and even if you're not connected to your purpose, it will guide you. They will guide you in that way,
I
no
always
matter what. Oh, I
trace,
love it.
trace the passions back to their root, and at the core, you'll find the purpose.
Yeah. Oh.
And my research nerd, because I just can't help myself, thinks of the twin strands of DNA, purpose being one and passion being another, and they're intertwined.
Mm. Well, in your book, you've written this wonderful paragraph, and I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind reading it for us, because what you're doing in that paragraph is talking about that beauty
Mm,
that you see.
yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I see it here.
Yeah.
And in this, just as a preamble to this, I was talking about purpose and passion and what it means to really discover yours
Mhm.
and understand who you are through that lens. And the paragraph says, the beauty of this realization is that your passions offer unending opportunities to make a difference. Beyond this, you'll enjoy an identity through them that can't be stripped away by outside forces or overshadowed by material possessions. Regardless of your circumstances or relationships, your passions represent the essence of who you are in a way that doesn't depend on others for validation. Therefore, owning your passions makes you less reliant on the opinions and influences of people who have not lived your life. While you may respect others' input, no one is in a better position to make decisions about your life than you. And understanding your passions is key to doing that well. Developing passion mastery empowers you to embrace, celebrate, and exhibit the very best version of yourself without apology, shame, or fear of failure. Remembering that could literally save your life.
Oh, I just get chills. It's so well done and stated. I really, when I read that, I went, whoa, because it does speak to that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And, and obviously the title of your book. I went, there you go, permission to be you.
Yeah,
Oh, terrific. Terrific.
thank you.
So, also in your book, you talk about passion archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you could kind of give us an overview of them. I know that is there 10 of them?
10 of them, not eight, not seven, not 11. I tried, I looked hard at this. There are 10. And, I'll briefly describe them. But what's important for people to remember is that we all have all 10 of them in us to greater or lesser degrees. The trick is really to understand what your top three are, because our research shows that when we do, we tend to understand the strengths we're likely to experience because of those passions and the vulnerabilities we might be more subject to because of those
Mhm,
passions. And armed with that information, we can be more intentional about how we enter certain situations and apply those passions more effectively.
mhm,
So, just quickly, I'll go through the 10 of them. The first is the archetype of the creator. The creator is the artistic archetype, the archetype that likes to take an idea that they have in their minds and translate it into a form that's artistic and emotionally evocative for others. They want to touch you emotionally with their ideas when they're birthed into art. The next archetype is the conceiver. The conceiver, I kind of think of as the intellectual acrobat. I used to think, conceivers could be described as people who think outside of the box. And the more I worked with them, the more I realized they don't even have a box. All about playing in the space of ideas and possibilities and pushing, conformative thinking and, really skating on the edges of what's accepted and thought of as normal ways of viewing the world. So they really are the strategic ideators of the world.
mhm,
The next is the discoverer. Discoverers are the archetypes of the individuals who know an answer's out there somewhere, and if I look under enough rocks, I'm going to find it. So they
mhm,
play the role of the explorer. They have a hypothesis and they set out to prove it. And when they are interested in something, they're like a dog with a bone, and they're not going to let go until they find out an answer. But they're great because they validate information. They look for proof for things. If we have an idea, the discoverer will say, "How do we know that's going to work? Let's see if anybody else has done it."
mhm,
Then there is the processor. Processors are individuals who love structure and order. They love analysis. If there's chaos, they're looking for how to contain it and how to get things in a swim lane. And they keep us out of trouble a lot of times because they're able to identify where the landmines are and help us not step in them. But they're very structured and very analytical. So when you start changing things rapidly, this is an archetype that gets a little bit uncomfortable because I don't have enough data to know if this is the right direction to take.
mhm,
The next is the teacher archetype. And we'll talk about you in a minute, but teacher archetype, interestingly, is not just the person who's loves being in front of the classroom and pontificating as the knowledge expert on something. Teachers love to help others learn. They love to mentor others, but
mhm,
surprisingly, for some people, the teacher loves learning.
mhm,
So it's not just the act of, I have information that I'm going to share with you, and it's a one-way street. For the teacher, when the person they're trying to teach reflects on what they've told them and comes back to them with an insight about it, they're like a kid in a candy shop because then there's this feedback loop going on, and I'm teaching and I'm learning, and I'm teaching and I'm learning, and that's a happy day for people
yeah,
who archetype. Connector is the next one. Connector is the archetype that is the architect of relationships. They look to build deep connections broadly across their network of folks that they know, and they help to bring ideas to different people. If you've got an issue with something that you're working on, oh, I know somebody who might be able to help you, let me make the connection. They also tend to be very good at helping with negotiations because they understand both sides of an issue and they find that one red thread that is common through both perspectives and they bring people together to negotiate effectively. The next one is the altruist. The altruist is one of the two archetypes of the heart out of the 10 passion archetypes. Altruist cares deeply about making a bigger difference in the world. And it's also the archetype that is likely, if you're interacting with somebody and you're an altruist and they're taking a direction that doesn't quite feel like it's morally the right thing to do, that's when the altruist will have the hair on the back of their neck stand up like this. No, I don't think we should be doing this. Or they'll work for an organization and the organization is saying one thing but doing another. That tends to make people with that archetype feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, but you can. Probably all of your listeners have had at least one of those experiences in life. Beyond that archetype, there's the archetype called the healer. Healer is the other archetype of the heart of the 10. And for the healers, the net export of energy is always out to other people on an individual by individual basis. They care deeply about helping people navigate through pain and get to a better place. And at times, they can even take on that pain as if it's their own until they solve it.
Mm,
But they are all about helping others heal and helping others be mentally, physically, and spiritually in a good place.
mhm.
The next archetype is the archetype of the transformer. And if there's such a thing as loving chaos, this archetype embodies it. It's absolutely about, it's crazy, it's chaotic, but I know that out of this chaos, there's some new order that's going to emerge. And doggone it, I want to be part of making that new order happen, right? So sometimes for people who have this archetype, if things are not chaotic and upside down, they get bored.
Yeah.
They'll start changing stuff just to keep it interesting. These are not eat pizza every Wednesday night kind of people, let me tell you. It's got to
Yeah,
be new and different and changing to keep them engaged. And
that's so
finally,
funny.
the last one is the builder archetype. The builder is all about big goals and making them happen. In fact, it's a common phrase that I'll hear when people talk about folks who have a builder archetype. They'll say, that woman makes things happen,
Mm,
always makes things happen. So they're all about having big visions and having an idea of how to get to that vision. Maybe not all the steps that they need. If it's a 99-step process and they've got 2 steps, that's enough for them. Let's leave the starting gate and go after this. But it's always about big goals and it's about being in a big hurry to get to them. So sometimes they can leave others behind because they're
mm.
moving very, very quickly.
Well, what I loved in the book, right, is that you've got QR code in there that
Mhm.
if someone wants to go and find their archetype, they can, right, through the
And
book.
the QR code offers them a 25% discount on the cost of taking there's 3 different versions of something that we call the Passion Profiler Assessment.
Mhm.
And they can take any one of those 3 versions to learn more about themselves. There's one called the Passion Profiler for Self-Awareness. That's a general one to help you understand what your top 3 archetypes are.
Uh-huh.
Going to be a Passion Profiler for romantic relationships that tells you about your passions as they relate to being in a romantic match. And then later in the fall, we'll have the Passion Profiler for students instrument being introduced as well.
Well, it's so good. And we were kind of giggling at a couple of the archetypes because they related to me, right? I took the profiler quit approach and said, okay, like what are mine? And it turned out that I was teacher, altruistic, and transformer.
Yes.
And you asked me what, which of those kind of guides the podcast in
Mhm.
some way. And I really think that it is, as we said, the transformer. Like, I love the idea of change
Mhm.
and sprinkled with teacher on top because I really think that for me, the joy has been the research, reading books like yours. I mean, I have had close to 100 books on this show. I mean,
Yes.
it's just like I love them. Like I can't get enough of them. Like you can see behind me. When I started the podcast, that bookcase was empty. There was very few, but
Wow.
I just love that part. And I appreciated in your analysis when you were talking about, well, here's the upside, but you got to watch for the downside on this too. So I have to watch that too, that I don't become the professor in the front of the room who bores everybody to death with something they think is so fascinating.
I think it's kind of the danger of that. So far, so good. You're doing just fine. But it's interesting about, having taken the instrument and understanding what your top three passions are, is it gives you now a language to
Mhm.
describe yourself at your very best. And most of us struggle with that. We try to sort of tell people who we are and what matters to us. And it's hard to do that sometimes or to find the words. But when
Yeah.
you understand I'm a teacher, altruist, transformer, it says so much with just those three words.
Mhm.
And understanding what really you are driven most by helps you have a deeper understanding of what your purpose probably is in this world. And
Mhm.
for you, it's probably transformation. It's probably helping others change and grow. And you use a teacher as a tool for doing that. You use
Right.
knowledge sharing and learning as a tool for causing that transformation to happen. And the altruist suggests that you have big goals about how to do that in the world. It's not just, I want to do it for a couple of people. I want to do it for many, many people, hence the podcast and,
Yeah.
things
That's
that you
right.
do in the future to reach as many people as you possibly can.
So I'm not letting you off the hook here.
Okay.
Yours are builder, transformer, and healer.
Yes.
So what about you? What do you feel at this point drives you?
So it's interesting. I think in a lot of ways, I have been put here to do transformative work in the world.
Mhm.
So, like you, transformer is a major driver for me. However, I can tell you that healer is at the core for
Mm.
me. And I think that um, I see a lot of pain in the world. I write about it in the book as well, where I've seen that. And I'm not it doesn't frighten me to walk into that pain because I know it's possible to transform it. And I want to build systems and processes and approaches that allow that healing and transformative experience to be available to everybody.
Mhm.
So builder becomes a tool. I kind of think of transformer and healer are kind of driving the bus and builders directing traffic.
Mhm.
But ultimately, the intent is to get the transformation to occur.
Yeah. So
Well,
that researcher part of you, is that showing up in the builder, do you think?
the researcher is showing up in builder, yes, for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
But I would also say when I first started the research is showing up in builder now, but when I first started doing research, healer was in charge
Mm.
because I started out as a medical school and then went into research in a laboratory. And
Yeah.
always the intent was, I'm going to find something that's going to heal people. It's going to make their lives better. That was the intent then. And then I
Mhm.
made that crazy jump into HR, which people are still scratching their heads about. Like, huh? I don't get that. How are you working with,
But
mice?
that's your healer part, right? And
Well, it
transform.
ended up being the healer part, and I didn't realize it at the time, but when I reflected on it, most of the work that I did and loved most, I was working with dysfunctional teams,
Mhm. Mhm.
leaders or teams that were having difficulty figuring out how to be as effective as possible. And I looked at them as needing healing.
Mhm.
Work
Mhm.
I
I
did
can see that.
approached from that direction.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who go into HR have big hearts
I do too.
and they're there and they get, torn in so many ways. They see the inner workings of what they're supposed to be doing and how they want to take care of people. And definitely, I can see that. But
Well, see,
yeah.
I think one of the important take-home messages for listeners about these archetypes is that there are myriad ways to apply these passions in your life. There's
Mhm.
not just one way, which is really cool when you think about it, because you can have a healer archetype and decide, hey, I want to go into the healing arts. Literally, I want to be in medicine.
Mhm.
I want to go into physical therapy. I want to go into massage therapy, or I want to go work with a bunch of folks who are trying to figure out how to function as a group, and they're failing at it miserably, and I'm going to go help them, right? I mean, you can go everywhere with an
Yeah,
archetype,
it's
everywhere.
broad.
It,
Well, I know this is shifting gears just a bit, but I love this. You made the point in your book that reality TV got it right about falling in love. So, and you have the quote, when you know your own, and I love this quote, when you know your own self worth, you won't settle for someone who doesn't.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. So, okay. So tell us about the quote and tell us about reality TV.
Well, it was really interesting as I began doing this work with the archetypes. I started to recognize that there was so much going on in the interplay between passions between two people that were involved in a romantic relationship. Because I saw that, of course, in the work setting. But in the work setting, you can do that from this hour to this hour. And when you're sick of them, you go home, right? You don't have to make dinner for them. You don't have to sleep with them. You don't have to live with them. You can
Right.
leave those relationships at work. Not so true in a romantic relationship that you're trying to make work. And it was interesting to watch this interplay happen. And I saw it with bunches and bunches of couples, where we would see their archetypes at play. And sometimes they were working well together and sometimes not so well. In fact, there's a story I tell in the book about a couple who's married and in business together. And, seeing how their archetypes played out with one another was really revealing and kind of funny.
Yeah.
So when readers get to that point, they'll understand which story I'm talking about. But, it's really interesting. Reality TV shows like The Bachelor and other kinds of, social
Mhm.
experiment shows are very good at figuring out what things help build romantic connections.
Mm,
And one of the things that they rely on is a concept in psychology called self-expansion theory. And what that concept says is that as human beings, we grow and learn and enjoy a greater level of self-knowledge as we grow and learn. And it also says, and when we do that with somebody else, we build an even deeper bond. We develop our identity even more, and we develop a level of closeness with that other
mm,
person that we're doing it with. So think about what those shows do. They rely on creating these scenarios, sometimes fantastical scenarios, of putting two people together in a situation where they're likely to learn something together or have to forge or overcome a challenge together.
yeah.
And that builds a level of closeness, right? We're
Right.
going to go whitewater rafting, or we're going to go zip lining, or something that one or both of them are scared to death to do, but they do it together and they survive it. And then suddenly they've built a closer bond because we've learned something, we've overcome something, and we've done that together.
Hmm.
So that's really what they get right about it. And
Mm.
sometimes it gets a little ridiculous about what
Just a tad.
tribes some of those things are. Um, but the lesson here is that if you're going to forge a romantic relationship, you really need to understand your needs for self-expansion, because not everybody
Hmm.
needs that. And based on your archetypes, you may need more or less
Hmm.
self-expanding opportunities than someone else. So
Hmm.
that's the first and most important thing. And then to also think about, how do we bring these self-expanding experiences into our lives?
Hmm.
And I'm not suggesting everybody decide to go out and go skydiving tomorrow.
You're not going to get me to do that.
Not for everyone, but it helps keep that spark alive in the relationship.
Hmm. I know when we met, I asked you some thoughts that you see now about the younger generations.
Mm.
And because I hear sometimes from them, I don't know my purpose. And I think it's so great that you're kind of giving them a roadmap on how they can maybe get to that. But what do you see happening there?
It's interesting. I have these moments where there's a a high level of excitement about possibility that I feel when I think about this generation. And then I have these other moments where I feel, oh gosh, this is so hard.
Mhm.
And I see a lot of disillusionment. And I think that part of that disillusionment that I see is the result of them watching their parents' generation
Mhm.
work for a company for many, many years and have that not work out for them. Or it ends up it's not being the place that they end up retiring from, or didn't whatever the expectation they had of that contract between them and that organization didn't work out as they thought it would.
Mhm.
And those parents very often told them, find something you're passionate about
Mhm.
and do that instead of, and the connotation being instead of just chasing the dollar bill, find
Mhm.
something you're passionate about. And in some cases, I've seen younger people take that suggestion to heart. And not only do they want to find something they're passionate about, they want to find a life they're passionate about. And they want passion in every aspect of it. So they want to find that thing and they want to build a life around it. So I want to be passionate about my work. I want to be passionate about what I'm doing in my personal life. Then there's another group of younger folks who I think have been maybe the victims of what's gone on for us economically and are now in situations where they're saddled with debt for education. They they can't afford to buy a house because the cost of housing in their generation relative to income is so different than it was in their parents' generation. And there's just the feeling of I've just got to figure out how to make a living and get from, one bill cycle to the next. And so this thought of home ownership or this thought of I can have children and afford to, send them to private school and things like that is just, that's a pipe dream to
Mhm.
them. So for both camps, I kind of say this notion of passion is important. And you might be in that mode where you feel like I've just got to grind and I've got to make a living because I've got all this overhead to sustain that I've got to sustain. But somewhere in there, you need to find a way to bring your passions to what you're doing. And if you understand them, you're in a far better position to bring your passions for what you're doing. Hopefully, you can bring it to your work, but if not, at least bring it to the activities that you're involved in outside of work because we need that to fuel us.
Mhm.
Otherwise, life's very draining and
Mhm.
very hard without feeling like there's a sense of passion and purpose with what we're doing. And the
Mhm.
average person, the average young person, is going to spend more than 85,000 hours of their lives at work. That's a long time to spend doing something that you don't feel that you have the opportunity to bring a passion to.
Yeah. Oh,
So it's not so much about let's go find a job that fits me perfectly, but let's understand myself well enough to know that wherever I land, I'm going to find a way to bring me to the work.
yeah.
The work can continue to gift itself back to me.
Yeah. I get that. I kind of felt that especially later in my career, when I didn't have the ambition to go up,
Hmm.
what was important was what I was doing when I
Yes.
was there and what impact I was having. And the last position I had was um, the director of marketing for a service line,
Hmm.
which included oncology and the neurosciences and these amazing service lines.
Yeah.
And
To your altruist passion.
totally.
Yeah.
And I could go and I could feel I was making a difference with the patients who would come into the hospital,
Hmm.
like their experience, so that they wouldn't be afraid, like
Yeah.
maybe helping them understand what was going to happen, educating them a bit about the questions to ask. And, so I had a great time doing it. You can tell it checked all the boxes for me. I didn't need to go up anymore. I could just be happy going in and doing this job.
And it's not always about the going up part. I mean, we get
Right.
stuck on that. I mean, we live in a society that's always encouraging us to be something more than we are.
Yeah.
And social media feeds that. And, we're just a culture that's living in that soup right now.
Yeah.
But understanding that I can be me wherever I go is so empowering.
Yeah.
When you have that understanding, it gets much easier to sort out what is going to be an opportunity that will allow me to be me
Mhm.
and which one won't.
Ah, so good. Important. Underline, highlight that, you guys. That's so good. Now, in your book, you talk about, I think it's 10 permissions to give yourself.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, which of those do you think is the hardest for us to give ourselves?
Wow. That's a great question, Yo. Well, first of all, let me be clear. Those 10 permissions to give yourself are 10 permissions that I've seen most often needing to be given
Mhm.
with the folks that I've worked with. But your 10 permissions could be different than mine, than everyone listening could have 10 completely different permissions. But I believe that the permission that's most often difficult to give yourself is permission to fail.
Ah,
Permission to fail. We live in a society where we're not taught how to do that.
mm,
In fact, it's the antithesis of that. Everybody gets a trophy, right, for participating. Everybody is great in some way, and because we don't feel comfortable looking at failing as a learning opportunity, we avoid it at all costs.
mm,
Instead of saying, "I'm going to test this out. I might not be able to do this very well the first time, but I'm going to learn something, and then I'm going to try it again and again and again until I get really great at it." And I think that the analogy I make in the book is Kobe Bryant shooting baskets, right? He
yeah,
missed a ton of baskets, but nobody ever called him a failure, right?
I know. Well, sometimes that the beginner learning curve is longer than we think. We just have to kind of, that's how I kind of take on new things, new hobbies or whatever. It's like, okay, this is your learning curve.
Yeah.
Just go. You're not going to be mastery yet. Just go through the stages of learning. Um, but I appreciate that. Well, I know you and I could talk forever, but I do want to hear, if you wouldn't mind reading from your book, that section, the final thoughts
Oh,
section, because I think it pulls together our episode and also so much of what you try to help us see today.
I'll be happy to share that.
Mhm.
In my life, embracing the concept of permission has had a powerful and lasting impact, as it has on the lives of so many people I've worked with throughout my career. Yet giving yourself permission to make choices that support your higher good is likely to be an evolutionary process, one that you'll get better at with practice. As you do, you'll develop a deeper understanding of the events and people who have shaped your perspectives about who you are and the person you want to become. You'll realize, without apology, that you are where you've come from, but you're not condemned to the life shaped by your past. That's when you can begin making empowered choices that will bring you closer to the future you yearn to inhabit. Exploring and practicing the permissions you need to grant yourself can help you get better at resisting the external pressures that cause you to turn down the volume on that inner voice that says, make the choice that will bring you joy. Wrest the megaphone of opinions and perspectives from the hands of people who are not living your life and begin listening to your own intuition. You can be confident that it will guide you correctly. Yes, you are where you've come from, but you can also decide to live the life you want to create. Give yourself permission to start now.
Another thing to highlight and circle, go back to many times. Loved it.
Thank you so much.
Well, how can our listeners follow you and find your book and hear and just get more of you?
Oh,
You're just
thank
so great.
Well, there's a number of ways. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and then on Instagram, so they can follow me there.
Mhm.
I also have a website for the book that has more materials and information and learning available. That's called permissiontobeyoubook.com. So people can follow me there, and there'll be lots of different materials there to connect and learn from. And the book is available anywhere books are sold. So I hope that people will support their independent bookstores in their local communities. That means a lot. Barnes and Noble, and of course
Mhm.
online. Anywhere books are sold, you can get the book. And it was released on September 9th.
See? Congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting.
So, Alaina, what would you tell your 20 something self today?
Oh, that's a great question. You have a lot of them. You have a lot of great questions. Um, I think I would tell my 20 something self that you have permission to choose you. Because I think so much of my learning, my guidance as a young woman was to be a good person, be a good girl, please
Mhm.
everybody, consider other people's feelings and concerns. And I think I did that to my own detriment. And so I think we all need to have permission to choose ourselves first. And then we're in a much better position and much more empowered to help others.
Mhm.
I think I'd go with that one.
Love it.
But ask me tomorrow, I'll have 5 different ones.
It sounded pretty good, though. Definitely. Lastly, did you get a chance to go to our store? I forgot to ask you about that.
I take a look. Yeah, I think I love the book, the bookmark, Embrace the Journey.
Oh, I love that one too.
The journey. Yes, I think because I feel that way. I'm gonna get one of those and I'm gonna put it in my copy of Permission to Be You because that's exactly what this is. It's a journey, and the
Yeah.
book is your travel companion.
Oh, I love it. Love
So
it. Thank you. I love that bookmark as well. You can tell I love books, obviously. We got bookmarks, we got tags, we got everything there, but I would be my pleasure to send that to you. And I'd be honored if you had it in your book. That would
it's
just be
exactly
awesome.
where it will go. That's exactly. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your very deep, thoughtful book. And I just can't tell you enough how important that is. So thank you.
Thank you. It's my hope that um, the energy and the intent and the love that I poured into those pages makes a difference for even one person. If it does, then I've done my job.
Mhm. Did for me.
Thank you
So
so much, Joe.
thank you again, Elaine.
This was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today. Evelina's insights reminded you that it's possible to choose yourself, embrace your passions, and live authentically. I love it if you'd leave a review. That helps us reach more people. And if you know somebody who's going through these life transitions, send them the episode. Her wisdom might be exactly what they need to hear. And don't forget to check her book out, Permission to Be You, available wherever books are sold. You can find us on YouTube Music, at Girl Take the Lead. And yes, we can also be found on Facebook and all of the podcast platforms. On our public Facebook group, we go even deeper into these conversations and cheer each other on. So join us there. A few of my favorite quotes: you can't bring your best self if you're saying no to yourself. Giving yourself permission to fail is giving yourself permission to grow. And I love this one. Passions aren't just hobbies, they're clues to your purpose. So here are 3 takeaways. One, choosing yourself is essential. Permission is the first step for that authentic living. Two, passion fuels purpose. Recognizing and nurturing your passions brings clarity and fulfillment. That's important. Passion fuels purpose. And if we know our passions, we find our purpose. And lastly, failure is feedback. Giving yourself permission to stumble opens the door to growth. And if you've seen my failure resume, you can really understand how it all led to terrific growth. Coming up next week on Girl Take the Lead, we'll be joined by Amy Wineland Daughters, keynote speaker, satirist, letter writer. She's amazing. Sports journalist and award-winning author of Dear Dana and You Cannot Mess This Up. Amy believes that when humans connect individually in a meaningful way, nothing can separate them. And she'll share her thoughts on humor, connection, and creativity. Until then, take care of your heart, lead with courage, and remember, we've got this. Talk soon. Bye.